On this Saturday night, grappling with loss in Jasper. More details emerge about the destruction from the national park's largest wildfire in more than a century.
Just seeing it completely gone, it's surreal.
As troops join an intense firefight. An Israeli strike on a Gaza school used for shelter kills dozens as a deadly rocket attack hits the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, threatening to spark a wider war. Red card. FIFA's severe penalty shakes Canada women's soccer. The team's 6-point deduction over the spy drone scandal. And all the Olympic excitement as Summer McIntosh swims to silver.
We are just really excited to see the Canadian teams thrive.
Global National reporting tonight. Nitu Garcha.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin with the devastation and despair in Jasper, Alberta tonight. The damage is extensive and the pain for those who've lost everything, homes, businesses and livelihoods, is still being processed after that massive wildfire ripped through the town, regarded as the beating heart of the Canadian Rockies. Yesterday, Alberta's premier got a first-hand look at all that's been lost. We know 358 structures, or about 30% of the town, has been destroyed. The town's mayor, Richard Ireland, says it's beyond comprehension.
I feel their pain. I see memories of a lifetime.
Tonight, crews battling hotspots in the historic town, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and home to about 5,000 people, are hoping for cooler temperatures and rain helping them gain the upper hand. Jayme Doll is in Hinton, Alberta tonight, where many locals have sought shelter. Jayme, as officials assess the damage, the wildfire is still burning out of control, so it sounds like it's still very much an active situation.
Yes, indeed. That fire is still burning on the perimeter of Jasper tonight on the north and south. It's 32,000 hectares in size. That's roughly just about under half the size of Edmonton, but the largest fire to burn in this area in 100 years. Now, for the first time, the municipality of Jasper is releasing a map detailing addresses of homes and businesses that have been destroyed. And it's a reality that that town's mayor came face to face with recently. Gaping holes of melted memories pock Jasper's smoldering town site.
I see 67 years.
The town's mayor not spared from the wreckage or the anguish. His family home in ruins.
Somewhere in there is a photograph of me with a birthday cake and sitting on packing boxes. When I was 2, so many others are going to go through the same thing.
This living postcard, constantly teeming with adventure, is sitting idle. The only movement here now is from heavy machinery and the heroes with fire hoses. Legendary and beloved haunts people gathered in, got married in, decimated by that ferocious fire still burning out of control. The heartbreaking event is deeply set in the minds of those who fled it and those who had to stay.
Parts of the town where we used to work or go to eat, or just kind of enjoy the view, and just seeing it completely gone, it's surreal.
Constable Chris McSavage is a Jasper RCMP member, and so is his wife. While he evacuated his community, his wife and young son had to flee, driving 12 hours into BC. He too would eventually be forced out by flames.
Our whole career, we're basically taught to be the ones that everyone goes to for help, and then now it's something happens where we're just standing there. We have to leave because there's nothing we can really do, right?
Close to 100 soldiers from Shiloh, Manitoba arrived in Hinton overnight, ready to help wherever they can.
They can go into areas that have already been addressed by kind of more highly trained firefighters, and they can make sure that the fire is out and is completely safe.
To be here right now and supporting Jasper and the members in the community is the top priority.
They are expected to stay for at least a couple of weeks. For the people of this treasured town, their road to recovery will take much longer. The mayor urging the people not to dwell on the why.
In a time like this, a time of disaster, it is so easy to look to blame. There is no malice, there's no ill will. This is just nature doing what nature does.
Jayme, is there any word on when residents can go back home?
You know, this fire, while it hasn't grown, it's still very much a fluid and active situation. And Parks Canada says with warmer conditions on the way and stronger winds, this is still a very dangerous area, too dangerous to let residents go back there. But they say they are in the midst of trying to come up with some kind of re-entry plan, even just maybe a tour so residents can finally see with their own eyes what their community looks like. And while it's unclear when they will be going back, Parks Canada did say that some wildlife are starting to return to the community, including a grizzly bear who's been collared, and they say they've been monitoring her, and she took shelter during the fire. She survived, and she is now reactive in that area. It's a very hopeful sign in such a desperate situation.
Yeah, some good news there indeed. All right, Jayme Doll in Hinton, Alberta tonight. Thanks, Jayme. And Canada has won its first medal of the Summer Games thanks to a stellar performance in the pool by Summer McIntosh. She clinched silver for the women's 400-meter freestyle today. At just 17 years of age, McIntosh has already claimed her first Olympic medal. She fell short of earning one for the same event back in the Tokyo Olympics. McIntosh is also the current world record holder for the women's 400 individual medley and will compete in that event on Monday. The Canadian women's soccer team has been handed a harsh punishment over that drone spying scandal that's only getting bigger. FIFA has handed the team a 6-point penalty, closing nearly all avenues for them to win the Olympic tournament. That's on top of 1-year suspensions for the coaching staff linked to controversy, including head coach Bev Priestman. Crystal Goomansingh is in Paris covering the games. Crystal, what more can you tell us about the decision?
Neithu, FIFA, soccer's governing body, said these penalties were for offensive behavior and violations of the principles of fair play. Really, it's a combination of penalties handed down because of that controversial drone scandal from earlier in the week. Head coach Bev Priestman, who has coached the team since 2020, has been suspended for 1 year from all soccer-related activities, along with assistant coach Jasmine Mander and analyst Joseph Lombardi. All three had already been removed from Team Canada and sent home after they were found to have been involved with using a drone to spy on New Zealand's team prior to the Canadian match with them on Thursday. The team was also hit with a 6-point deduction, making it incredibly hard for the defending gold medal champions to overcome the deficit and continue on in the tournament. A joint statement from the Canadian Olympic Committee and Canada Soccer says we are exploring options to appeal on the basis that it is excessively punitive towards our women's national team, who were not involved in any unethical behavior. Former national soccer team member Diane Matheson took to social media to encourage the team, writing, "Take 6 points from us? Fine, we'll go get 9. Bruni Surin is Team Canada's chef de mission. He spoke about the spying controversy shortly before the point deduction was handed down.
Yes, this is big. We talk about it and everything, but let's not forget about the great Canadian team that we have here, the great athletes that we have here.
The women's soccer team will try to climb out from under this deficit when they take on France tomorrow. Neithu?
Crystal Goomansingh in Paris tonight. Thanks, Crystal. The International Olympic Committee is also apologizing for a huge gaffe at last night's opening ceremonies when they mistakenly identified South Korea's team as North Korea's.
We can only apologise in an evening of so many moving parts that mistake was made, and we apologise to people from the Republic of Korea for that error.
During last night's roll call at the Parade of Nations, announcers introduced the Republic of Korea, which is South Korea's official name, as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That's North Korea's official name. South Korea's Olympic Committee immediately flagged the mistake to the IOC, requesting that it not be repeated. The IOC's president has apologized to South Korea's president. Repairs on France's high-speed rail network are underway after a series of arson attacks sabotaged transit systems ahead of the opening ceremonies. Despite ongoing delays and cancellations, the French transport minister says the network should be back to normal by Monday. Investigators are still trying to determine who was behind the attack. The sabotage targeted signaling cables for train routes into Paris, causing disruptions for hundreds of thousands of travelers. One of the most experienced Canadian athletes at these Olympic Games is gymnast Ellie Black from Halifax. This will be the 28-year-old's fourth time at the Olympics, and she is still this country's best chance at a gymnastics medal. As Mike Armstrong explains, Black is part of a trend of gymnasts lasting longer in the sport, but it's not easy.
It is a sport that puts a pounding on the body. There are the falls, those hurt enough. But even when a gymnast like Ellie Black lands a move properly, she says most people watching don't quite get the beating her joints and muscles are taking.
No, I don't think really anyone does understand or can appreciate, what we actually go through on the day-to-day basis.
Now, that toll on the body builds up. For a few decades, gymnastics was a teenager sport. Black's first Olympics were London in 2012. She was just 16 years old, and that was normal. But the average age of female gymnasts has gone up each Games since.
It's shifting towards that trend, which is awesome, and it's really amazing to see for the sport.
American Simone Biles goes into Paris at 27 years old. She's the most decorated gymnast in history and still going strong. Black's been competing with her for years. To do that, she says older gymnasts have to train differently. There's more strength and conditioning and more time needed for recovery, something younger gymnasts don't necessarily worry about as much.
As you get older in the sport, you have to manage that load, manage how many reps you're doing, how many numbers you're doing, being smart with that.
Now, she's battled injuries and, in fact, 5 surgeries in her 2 decades competing. But Black's ability to bounce back has helped her continue competing at the highest level, even as a medal threat. She's also not ruling out sticking around for a 5th Olympics. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Wildfire chaos grips the western U.S. Coming up, the devastating impact and heroic firefighting efforts. The Hamas-run health ministry says at least 30 people have died and more than 100 are injured after an Israeli strike hit a school sheltering displaced Palestinian civilians in central Gaza. In a statement, the Israeli military says it targeted a Hamas command center and warned civilians before the strike. Hamas denies reports that the school was being used for military purposes. Meanwhile, Israel says at least 11 people, including children, have been killed in a rocket attack on a football pitch in Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Israel blames Hezbollah for the attack, but the Iran-backed group denies any involvement. Communities across the western United States and here in Canada have been under siege from raging wildfires in recent days. In rural Idaho, a fast-moving wildfire sparked by lightning sent people fleeing on roads ringed with towering flames. While in Oregon, a firefighting aircraft crashed Friday, killing the pilot. As Bianca Fascini reports, a human-caused inferno in California has erupted, becoming one of the largest in the state's history.
California's biggest wildfire doubling in size overnight, tearing through 4 counties and threatening thousands of homes. One man comparing it to a freight train steaming through his community.
It looked like one mass of smoke and flames. Yards by yards, it wasn't moving foot by foot, it was by yards. It was leaps and bounds coming through.
134 residential and commercial structures have been destroyed in the park fire. For authorities, it's a race against time to prevent further damage.
We're doing everything that we can to do structure protection so we don't lose structures.
The wildfire began Wednesday after a man pushed a burning car into a ravine.
And he got out of the car, kind of looked at it, and when I turned back, he was gone.
A day later, police arrested that man, who now faces arson charges. The fire has brought back tragic memories of the 2018 Camp Fire. That was the most destructive wildfire in California's history, leaving 85 people dead.
It is painful. I lost my dad in the Camp Fire. We got our home, and we've been working on it a lot lately, fixing it up, and it's just we're at the verge of maybe losing all that.
It's something that's top of mind for law enforcement as they help survivors flee to safety.
It's personal to all of us. As we look out there, we see something that unfortunately we've seen too many times recently. We are part of the community. I've lived here for 40 years, and I want this fire to get out.
The Park Fire is just one of over 100 active wildfires burning across the U.S., including in Oregon, which has the largest active wildfire in the country, as well as Idaho, where a fire forced the evacuation of an entire town on Thursday. And thanks to better weather conditions on Saturday, firefighters in Northern California have been able to make some progress on the Park Fire, which is now considered the 8th largest wildfire in the state's history. Neetu?
All right, Bianca Fascini reporting for us tonight. Thanks for that, Bianca. Ahead, Northern Ontario heats up as federal party leaders target change after a major redrawing of the electoral map. Federal party leaders are turning their attention to Northern Ontario after a major redrawing of the electoral map. Pierre Poilievre is spending the next week there campaigning for votes. His tour is on the heels of Jagmeet Singh's visit. David Aiken joins us now with a closer look. David?
In the next general election, the country is going to elect 343 MPs, and that's up from the current 338. But Northern Ontario will elect fewer MPs. Instead of 10, there will be 9. And that has meant a radical redraw of this vast region's riding map. Case in point, the current riding of Sault Ste. Marie explodes in size to become the new riding of Sault Ste. Marie Algoma.
It's huge. Winter's challenging. We just got to plan ahead. And we used to always pack emergency kits in our trunk in case you broke down, because there's not cell service everywhere here.
Liberals and New Democrats oppose the way Northern Ontario's electoral map was carved up.
And in fact, the Conservatives wrote a dissenting report supporting one less voice in Northern Ontario. Shameful.
Bring it home. But the Conservatives smell opportunity in the region. They hold just 2 seats now, but believe they might triple that. That's one reason why Pierre Poilievre is about to embark on a week-long tour of Northern Ontario, starting in Fort Frances. That's a community in the riding of Thunder Bay Rainy River, where the Tories haven't won since 1930, and where the sitting MP is a Liberal, albeit, who can read the polls.
This may be news to you, but the Liberals aren't exactly riding the crest of popularity at the moment. And so I think he thinks everything's possible.
Mr. Singh. But New Democrats, too, sense opportunity, also at the expense of the Liberals.
I think, not being mean to my friends, but I think the Liberals are in trouble.
Charlie Angus is not running next time, but he has been an MP for the North since 2004. And he says races in his region are characterized by three-way splits where voters generally pick those who stay close to the middle of the political road.
They want their MP to be reasonable, approachable, friendly, and pragmatic.
Predictions? Well, all that we spoke to expect some changes, and that's simply because of the redrawn map. But a Global News analysis of polling trends shows a distinct possibility that the Liberals could get shut out in Northern Ontario in the next election, and that's something that has not happened since 2011, the last time the Conservatives won a national majority. David Aiken, Global News, Ottawa.
Next, Olympic excitement ramps up. How Canadian spectators are taking in the Games. Fans cheering and sending off Seline Dion as she leaves her hotel in Paris today. The goodbye comes a day after her show-stopping performance during the Olympics opening ceremony. A comeback fans say they have been waiting for.
I'm still very, very emotional about not my performance last night, but how the athletes have been feeling in this whole thing.
Singing on the Eiffel Tower under the Olympic rings Friday marks the first time the Canadian icon took to the stage since revealing her stiff person syndrome diagnosis. The Paris Olympics are in full swing now, and excitement has also been building up here in Canada, especially in our country's biggest city. Lexi Benedict has more.
365 days a year, the Dock Ellis is like any other sports bar in Toronto. But this weekend, they've transformed into the Matchless Six, an ode to the Olympics and female athletes.
I always look forward to the Olympics because you get to see sports and the new Canadian heroes that everyone will remember forever.
Since Thursday, the bar is showcasing all female memorabilia and current and former athletes.
We thought we would honor them and honor the path that women have been able to follow since then.
Named the Matchless Six after the first 6 Canadian female athletes to ever compete in the Olympic Games in 1928.
I've always been keen on the Olympic movement, so I'm very excited to, that the Games have started.
Also celebrating women in this year's Olympics is Peach's Sports Bar.
We are prioritizing women's sports when it comes to the sound being on, the televisions representing them. So I think it'll be really cool to see the way that we are differently representing ourselves from a Canadian perspective and then also from a women's sports perspective.
The bar says they will be opening early for the stretch of the Games.
It's really fun to come, has a good energy.
I feel the whole city celebrates, so you're out in the streets, people have their flags out, and then being able to come to a space inside like this, you just feel like you're a part of it.
What bars and restaurants are looking forward to providing is the atmosphere.
We're really stoked to see what happens.
Everyone's always happy, having fun, cheering everything on, meeting new people, having a great time.
Lexi Benedict, Global News, Toronto.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Neetu Garcha. To keep the Olympic spirit going, we're revisiting Olympic swimmer Summer McIntosh's silver medal win as we leave you tonight. McIntosh will literally be taking a piece of Paris home with her. Each medal is made up of a piece of iron taken from the Eiffel Tower itself. It's the first one ever awarded to the 17-year-old and hopefully the first of many Team Canada will be winning at the Games. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great night.